Hello, this is Joe Wilson again with Old School Boxing Talk. This one here, we're going to preview the Andre Ward-Sergey Kovalev rematch and a little common sense, a little something for you casual boxing fans, a little chance for you all to sit in the learning tree, and for me to give you a little bit of my knowledge on boxing and my observations of the sport. I consider myself a historian of this sport. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Andre Ward-Sergey Kovalev takes place June 17th, which is next week. Next week, I believe. Yeah, next Saturday. And I think I said so in an earlier video about I couldn't understand why there was no rematch clause for Andre Ward if he lost, because should he lose, Kathy Duva and Main Events has made it clear that they are not in a hurry to give him a rematch. But like I've said before, I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think Andre Ward is going to beat Sergey Kovalev, and I have a lot of respect for Kovalev. But I believe Ward is the better fighter, and I believe Ward is a guy that is in Kovalev's head. Kovalev still can't get over the first loss. And I don't see Kovalev doing a whole lot to change. I think actually he's going to regress. As I watched Kovalev, and I've watched Kovalev a lot, and I went back and grabbed the footage of some of his other fights, and I rewatched them. And I've watched Ward at light heavyweight. I didn't go back and watch him at super middleweight. I watched him specifically in his 4 fights at light heavyweight. And what I've seen in those fights is a steady progression, a steady getting better by Andre Ward. How he's looked better as the competition's moved up. He's looked better. And people talk about the knockdown in round 1. Well, okay, the greatest fighters in the world have been knocked down. It's not about when you get knocked down, it's how you get up. Andre Ward, for the second time in his career, was knocked down. Second time in his career. He got dropped. And the first time when he got dropped was early in his career. So now here he is, a multi-divisional champion, and he's getting dropped by a good fighter. Kovalev's maybe just, I don't know, I guess maybe 3-4 levels below being great. I think had Kovalev beaten Ward, I think you could have started putting that great, that moving that from good and put an R in there and started the word great as far as light heavyweight champion. But he didn't. I think that loss to Ward is no damnation from Kovalev. Kovalev is still a damn good light heavyweight. Make no mistake about it. I just think that Ward is the best fighter in boxing today, in my opinion. The best pound-for-pound fighter in boxing today, regardless of what regardless of what HBO and the rest of the ESPN, the more publicized outlets will tell you, Andre Ward's the best fighter in boxing today. While they're trying to push up all these space up all these Eastern Europeans, the best of these Eastern Europeans, honestly, is Kovalev. And I would say Lomachenko would come in second, but I have reservations about Lomachenko because the one man that defeated him, he has not yet cleaned that up. And if you look throughout history of the greatest fighters in history, Ali Frazier, when Frazier beat Ali had to come back there to clean that up, and they fought 3 times, and Ali won 2 out of 3. But he cleaned it up. Lennox Lewis cleaned up all of his defeats, which is why I rank Lennox Lewis very high. Great fighters, Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield, trilogy to clean up who's the better of the two of them. The great ones, Marquez and Pacquiao fought a great series of fights. Marquez winning the final one by knockout to definitively. While the first 3 fights were all close and controversial, Marquez won the final fight, which definitively said, hey. And, Manny's been crying for a rematch ever since, but Marquez said, look, I felt that I got robbed the other 3 times. And everybody that watched those first 3 fights between you and me, there was questions, said they could make a case that, I won that fight. And I felt I won a fight. But this final fight, this 4th and final fight, I left you laying. There was no controversy in this one. I left you laying. I was in the ring. I was at the bar, having a drink, and you was still laid out in the ring. So, for Marquez, it was like, I don't want to fight you again because I already proved my point. To me, should Kovalev win, needs a third fight. Now, what I'd like to see happen, I think will happen is they're going to get Adonis Stevenson. They're going to get that WBC belt. They're going to send Ward to get a WBC belt from Adonis Stevenson. And Ward's going to bring that back, and then him and Kovalev will fight again for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. That's what I think is going to happen. But like I said, again, it's my opinion. That's what I think. That would make the most sense. But then again, in boxing, you don't always get the thing that makes the most sense. So, a lot of other issues I'm watching going on in boxing. The drug testing. There's been a lot of issues about drug testing, and I'm glad that the WBC, for all these governing bodies, and this is where I'm going to school some of you casuals. The WBC, World Boxing Council, the WBA, World Boxing Association, the IBF, International Boxing Federation, the WBO, World Boxing Organization. All of these organizations are corrupt. They don't care about the fighters. They don't care about the sanctioning fees that they get from the fighters for their little trinkets. The World Boxing Association is the oldest. They started as the National Boxing Association. And they came into existence shortly after Ali was stripped for refusing to go into Vietnam. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. I will do my risk, but I know it was somewhere along that lines that the WBA came into existence around the time of because before that there was no WBA. Before Ali got stripped, when Ali beat Liston, it was the World Heavyweight Championship. There was no WBA then, and so I think the WBA came into existence shortly in that went from being a National Boxing Association to being a World Boxing Association after the Vietnam, after they stripped Ali of the title for refusing to go on induction to Vietnam. I believe it became the World Boxing Association to make sure that they could then stop Ali from fighting overseas, which is one of the things they wanted to do. But they're the oldest of these corrupt bastards, and they're the worst now. Boxing, when I grew up with boxing, we had two champions, with WBA and the WBC. And pure boxing fans hated that shit then. Now we have four. And it's fuckery now. It was bad when it was two. It's even worse when it's four. Before you had two, and I remember buying Big Book, a boxing magazine, and they had this issue on there where they had every champion in every weight class, WBA versus WBC. And Harold Smith was a guy that was somehow affiliated with Wells Fargo, was supposed to have all this big money. He was supposed to put on this tournament at the Garden that would match all of these champions against one another to unify the titles. Of course, Harold Smith wound up being a fraud. But before we all knew this, Big Book of Boxing put out this magazine, and it was one of the greatest magazines ever. And it had all the champions, WBA versus WBC, and the matchups were fantastic. I mean, Salvador Sanchez, who was, in my opinion, one of the top 5 greatest light featherweight champions ever. Him and Eusebio Pedroza would have unified. Aaron Pryor would have fought Saul Manby to unify. Leonard Hearns was, matter of fact, it was Duran and Hearns, because when this happened, Duran had just recently beat Leonard. This was before Leonard had recaptured the title, and shortly after Hearns had won the belt from Pepino Cuevas. They had Saad Muhammad, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, because this is before Eddie Mustafa Muhammad lost the light heavyweight title to Michael Spinks. So this was, this is going back a bit, but it was good. It was it was a tournament. Matter of fact, the 2 heavyweight titleists at the time were Larry Holmes and John Tate. So that was before Mike Weaver, who had lost to Larry Holmes, went over and won the WBA heavyweight title. So this book was, it was just telling you it was before after Leonard Hearns won, should tell you how old this book was. Anyways, Now we got 4 of these bastards. And it's total screwy. Now, one of the articles I was reading online was about Joseph Parker and Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder wants to unify. And Deontay Wilder's, called out Joseph Parker's opponent, Fury, got hurt. And the fight's going to be pushed back, to whenever. And to his credit, Wilder said, hey, I'll step in and we can unify. Parker and his camp came up with some half-assed excuse why they don't can't do the unification. But then somebody, one of the channels, and I love all the channels, I believe it was Ticket TV, went on there. I said I believe, I could be wrong. I know it was one of the channels in the LDBC that went on there and looked at the WBO rules and said that unification fights take precedence over mandatories. And that Joseph Parker could fight Deontay Wilder, and then the winner would have 9 months to face Fury. Now, the WBC would also have given Deontay Wilder an exception, because instead of him fighting Bermane Stervain again, he won the title from Stervain, and Stervain has not done anything since. But that's not just a lot of it's Stervain's fault, a lot of it's Don King's fault. But, that would be a good fight. We need to start unifying these belts. And the WB, see, all these governing bodies, they say, yes, you want to unify, yes, you want to unify. But in reality, they don't want to unify. Because all they're going to do was, okay, we're going to unify. But then guess what? Now you got 4 different mandatories, and we all want you to fight this guy by this time. Well, you can't do it. So now we're going to play the strip game. So we're going to have you unify. Then we're going to strip you the title so we can put that belt on somebody else. But we tried. So, that's what these governing bodies do. They bait and switch us. They give us all this. Now, fortunately, it looks like the IBF was the holdout for the Terence Crawford and Ndongo fight, has come on board and said, yes, we will let this Serpenev kid with 12-0 kid from Russia who's not fought anybody of note, he can wait. And they're going to let Ndongo face Terence Crawford to unify the 140-pound title, which is good. It's a damn good, because we need unifications. Danny Jacobs, who most people felt beat Golovkin. I'm not one of them. I felt Golovkin edged that. I liked the score of 114-112. I thought that, the knockdown that Golovkin scored was the difference in that fight, in my opinion. Danny Jacobs, Billy Joe Sanders' opponent, the Billy Joe Sanders, who's the WBO middleweight champion. Golovkin has 3 of the wretched belts. Billy Joe Sanders has the last one. Danny Jacobs has said, hey, I will fight you for that belt. And now it's up to Billy Joe Sanders whether he wants that, because Billy Joe Sanders has done with a lot of fighters. Billy Joe Sanders and Manny Pacquiao are these guys. It seems like the WBO allows this to happen. They allow these guys to win their title and run away and hide from any legitimate fighters. There are, if you look at the WBO welterweight rankings, all the legitimate fighters are not there. They have a bunch of bullshit fights. The best fight, I think, in the WBO welterweight rankings is Tim Bradley. That's it. Nobody else. Danny Garcia, a former welterweight champion, why isn't he ranked? Lamont Peterson, why isn't he ranked? There are good fighters at 147 that are not ranked. Now, okay, up until recently, because Earl Spence Jr. just won the IBF title, okay, you got reason to move Spence out of your rankings. Fair enough. But there are still other quality welterweights that for some god-awful, unbeknownst reason are not ranked in the WBO, which allows Manny Pacquiao to hold that belt hostage and fight guys like Jeff Horn. Who the hell is Jeff Horn? He's some guy that fought in Australia who's fought nobody. The best fighter on Jeff Horn's resume, again, is an old shot Randall Bailey, who was not a great junior welterweight, let alone a welterweight. And the only reason Randall Bailey's worth anything is because we have so many world titles today that he was able to capture 2 of them. Got all these world titles, and Randall Bailey was lucky enough to capture 2 of them. Lost them both, but he was able to capture. So I guess because he's a 2-division champion, that gives him some kind of rub for Jeff Horn beating him, and he's like damn near 40-some years old. That's my problem with a lot of these governing bodies, is that their rankings. I said this in the previous videos, that the HBO and a lot of these people are trying to do things like the UFC, and I think that's what's happening. Pretty much that WBO seems to be pretty much Bob Arum controlled. So when you look at their rankings, they're all top-ranked fighters. The top-ranked fighters are in the highest or high, but nobody outside of top-ranked is in those WBO rankings. The WBC, on the other hand, seems to be WBC seems to be a mixed bag, I'm going to say, for the BC, because you have some of the better fighters like Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, who, from god-awful reasons, not ranked in WBO as well. It's some fighters are ranked, some fighters aren't, and it's a shame when you see that, because it means that that champion is now able to cherry pick, and I mean pick the sweetest cherries out there, because that's all he's getting. He's cherry picking. All the legitimate fighters are not there. They're not even ranked. And I don't know how the wretched WBO can say to anybody with any credibility that Sean Porter's not in their top 5, that Danny Garcia is not in their top 5, that Lamont Peterson's not in their top 5. I mean, these are things I would like these governing bodies to answer. Why isn't these are top 5 guys? Why aren't they in your top 5? Why aren't these guys in that position? Because Bob Arum and Top Rank don't want to fight those guys. And the WBO has been, WBO is in Top Rank's pocket, so they're going, okay, we won't rank them. You don't want to fight them, we won't rank them. The same thing with division by division. Wherever Top Rank has a champion, you look at the division where Top Rank has a champion, you look at the contenders. And you notice, and then you look at the other governing bodies, look at the contenders, you notice, oh, there's a bunch of missing names here. And they're because those are the guys that Top Rank don't want to fuck with. They don't want their fighters fighting. And it's why I believe boxing needs a national commission, if not a global commission. I would like to see it start a national commission, since most of the big fights are taking place here in the U.S., and then maybe the British will get involved, because Britain has become a hotbed of boxing. I'd like to see it, and Britain, honestly, I would rather see it be Britain, because Britain's the one where we got the Marquess of Queensberry rules. So the British really have taken the sport of boxing and evolved it. And all the great evolutions in our sport, before the Marquess of Queensberry rules, there was no round limits. There were no gloves. There was just two guys, and two guys would stand there and pose for like forever, till one of them decided they were tired of pose, and that would be the end of the round. One round could last like an hour, and nobody threw a punch. Those are bare knuckle fights, but anytime you have bare knuckle, nobody, you're fighting in the street and you have bare knuckle fights, you're not going to throw as many punches as you would if your hand is taped and you got gloves on. The Marquess of Queensberry rules was made one of the rules about the gloves, and that was to help and to get more action into the fight. They figured, put a little padding on, okay, these guys, get more action. The Marquess of Queensberry, I believe, also established the weight classes, which matter of fact, just to give you a teaser, my next video is going to be on how to bring back our 8 original weight classes in boxing. So stay tuned for that video, which I'm going to work on. I'm going to give you a damn good video on that one, because I hate these junior divisions. I hate them with a passion. And I think that one of the things I do give mixed martial arts and credit for is they have 8 weight classes. And they're doing the mixed martial arts have taken a little bit of what boxing used to do, and they've kind of incorporated it into what they're doing. And I think boxing needs to take a step back to move forward. Now, we've seen that with the PBC, where boxing was a point where boxing, when I was growing up, boxing was on TV every Saturday, every Sunday. Main events run at that time by the Duvas, the legitimate Duvas, not this witch Kathy Duva, but her legitimate in-laws. When they ran main events, they had a show on. NBC carried them. They had fighters. They had some great fighters. Johnny Buffett, Frank the Animal Fletcher. Main events, when I was coming to, main events was mostly, they were pretty much a tri-state area promotion, where the best fighters in the tri-state fought for main events. Alex Ramos, Bobby Ches. These guys were all from New York or Jersey or PA. But there was a bunch of great local talent. And main events capitalized on all that great local talent. And, I mean, there were some great damn fights. I mean, wow. On Saturday and Sunday, you know, you might have a card by somebody. Maybe some days you get a Saturday card by main events and a Sunday card by main events. Or maybe the card on Saturday was somebody else and Sunday card was always main events. You know, main events did something. That's also when our championship fights were championship fights. Where we're 15-round championship fights and 12-round fights for the, you know, minor titles. And those were great fights. Like I said, guys like Frank the Animal Fletcher got his chance on NBC because of Duvas. And because they took all that local talent in the tri-state, New York, Philly, PA, Jersey. You know, they took all that local talent and they harnessed that local talent and brought that to the world, man. And they said, whoa, where are all these great fighters from Philly, from New York, from Jersey. And they were all in main events, ran all the, like the Ice Palace. And they ran all this, you know, those local arenas, the local venues, the Blue Horizon, you know, and different arenas throughout. You know, there was an arena in Philly that they ran. It wasn't the Spectrum, but there was another one in Philly that they ran. But the point is, at that time, main events ran all those arenas. They packed the house, maybe 6,000 people in there because a lot of the local boys, you know, they brought their friends and family would come in there. And they did the one thing that they don't do today in boxing. They built stars. Bobby Ches became a star. There was a KO magazine that had that their fighters want to cover, Champions of Tomorrow, where they had Bobby Ches, Alex Ramos, Tony Ayala Jr., who was from Texas, you know, and that was when they got Tony Ayala Jr., that was like, whoa, they're branched outside. But main events was a major player at one point in the boxing world, whereas in 1984, they were able to sign the major stars of the 1984 U.S. Olympic team, which was Tyrell Biggs, Evander Holyfield, Meldrick Taylor, Pernell Whitaker, Mark Breland. They signed those guys. Not Top Rank, not Don King, main events. Signed the Olympians. These were the top class. Mark Breland was, my God, Mark Breland was heavily wanted by everybody. But that shows you how good main events was and how credible main events was back then. And why it's different, Kathy Duva, because you don't have your husband's chops and you don't have your husband's love for this business. And in my opinion, Kathy Duva is a disgrace to the Duva name and to main events. But I'm not going to go on a tangent on that. I'm going to let that go for a minute. There's a lot of good fights. Matter of fact, another good fight that's coming up this year, which 2017 has turned to a damn good year of boxing. Adrian Broner, Danny Garcia. Adrian Broner and Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is a dangerous guy. Now, Mikey Garcia is saying, I'm coming up to 140 to fight this fight with Broner. I'm hoping that Mikey Garcia and his people will make Broner actually make 140 pounds. Which means, Adrian, if you have to shave that freaking ridiculous beard off, you know, Adrian Broner is a guy that, to me, he's a fucking jerk. And here's why. He wears this freaking ridiculous ass beard. He comes in to a title, he's a champion. And this is the second time he's done this. At 130 pounds, Adrian Broner didn't have the dedication to make weight. In a title, he's supposed to defend a title, he couldn't make weight. So what's he do? It's an over-the-limit fight. And I blame Al Heyman and those people for allowing Adrian to do this fuckery. Then at 140 pounds, after he gets his ass run out of the welterweight division because Sean Porter beat his ass, Maidana beat his ass, and he wasn't going to fuck with Thurman and none of the other top-level welterweights, he moved back down to 140. Al Heyman positioned this little idiot into a shot for the WBA Junior Welterweight Championship, which was vacated by Danny Garcia because Danny had moved up to welterweight. Gets him to Adrian wins the title. His first defense, another cherry pick, Ashley Theophane, one of the Mayweather Promotions fighters, again in a cherry pick layup for Adrian to make an easy title defense. You know, and this idiot won't shave his fucking beard to lose a couple ounces, which just shave your fucking beard, you lost that. and made weight. But Adrian Broner has shown. There are a lot of people that say, oh, Adrian Broner is talented. Adrian Broner is this. Adrian Broner has talent. I'm not going to deny it. But Adrian Broner does not have dedication. And that's what's missing with Adrian Broner. And I hate guys like that. It seems like since Aaron Pryor, Cincinnati has had like 4 or 5 good fighters that could have been great fighters. And they've all burned up. They've all just become shit. They've all, I don't know what's happening with these fighters. And that here's what I think is happening. We get these kids and they have all this great talent and all this great potential, and we look at the hands, we look at all this dazzle, but we don't teach them the basics, and we don't teach them the fundamentals. We say, oh my God, you're so great, blah, 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 blah. But they don't learn the fundamentals of the sport. They don't learn the dedication. There's no one there to make them really pay the price and prove your dedication to the sport. We pamper these kids because they show some talent. And then they don't have the dedication. Then they become people like Adrian Broner, who, who don't have. Ricardo Williams was another one from Cincinnati. Was supposed to be the next big great fighter. And Ricardo Williams had talent, didn't have dedication. Another Cincinnati guy, great talent, no dedication. And that's what I see with a lot of these fighters. That's what I see with Adrian Broner, which is why I'm picking Mikey Garcia. And what I like about Mikey Garcia was he was in a bullshit contract with Top Rank. He sat out. I'm not fighting another fight for you guys. I will sit out. He sat out 2 years. Till finally Bob Arum made a deal like, this guy's not going to fight for me. And Mikey Garcia, I guess was able to do the same thing Floyd did, buy himself out of his contract and get the fuck away from Bob Arum. And now Mikey's not signed with PBC, but he works along with PBC's people. And, he's doing okay. He's got the WBC lightweight championship. Which he won in destructive fashion. He just destroyed this guy. And now they're talking about, they're trying to build up to Mikey Garcia, Terrence Crawford fight. Should Crawford win and Garcia do what he's supposed to do here against Adrian Broner? I mean, this is just a step-up fight for Garcia to get, a quality name on his ledger at 140 pounds and also give him a chance to test himself in a real fight at 140. There's a difference between, people think, oh, Mikey Garcia was in the gym, he's 140, he was sparring. There's a difference between sparring at 140 and fighting at 140. A big difference between sparring and fighting. And unless you've ever fought, you wouldn't know the difference. But this is a chance for Mikey Garcia to see just how he handles the weight, how he, instead of him having to cherry pick some little, peon that's not going to test him, Mikey Garcia's, he's got to know he's not afraid to let it go. And he's, saying, okay, get me somebody quality. So they got Adrian Broner. Now, okay. I'm not saying Adrian Broner is not quality. I just think Adrian Broner is not dedicated. His talent is there. Obviously, he has great talent, but he doesn't have dedication. And that's what hurts Adrian Broner, is he has no dedication to our business. So, with that, I'm going to bring this video to an end. And like I said, next week when I talk to you, I will be probably, if it's after the Ward Kovalev, I think this is my next video might be before Ward Kovalev. If it's after Ward Kovalev, we'll cover Ward Kovalev. But I'm also going to cover how I would do boxing. And, it's going to be, that video is going to pretty much be titled, If I Ruled Boxing, How I Would Change Boxing. And I'm going to give you my breakdowns on the weight classes, I'll break down different things. And we're going to, review Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev too. So, till then, fight fans, jump on YouTube, find a fight. Bone up your skills. If you have any questions about boxing, any questions at all, hit me up in the comments section, man. You can find it on Facebook. You can also find it on Old School Boxing Talk on YouTube. Please hit me up with the comments, man. I love to educate. I don't do this because, a lot of people do this shit because they want to get paid. I don't do this because they're going to get paid. This to me is like therapy. Boxing is my passion. This is, oh my God, this is what I've loved since I was a child. You know, this has been everything to me. This is what I wanted to be. Other than being a Marine, this is what I wanted. So for me to talk boxing is a love of mine. A love, you know, it's like my greatest love. So if you have any questions, hit me up. You know, hit me up with your questions, comments. You know, any topics you want me to cover. No topic in boxing is out of bounds. I will cover them. So you take care till we see each other. All of you be safe.